All right, you money-grubbing bastards. Want to know how to stick it to the council?
Stick it to the council.
Yeah, those useless wankers taking our cash while we slave away.
Yeah.
We all hate council tax, right?
I think it's safe to say it's a system that causes a fair amount of frustration.
Frustration. I bet my listeners are ready to storm the council offices with pitchforks and torches.
So hold on there. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Hold your horses, I mean.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into this whole council tax bollocks, and guess what?
What?
We've got an expert here to help us unearth some sneaky ways to slash those bills and get some of that hard-earned cash back in your pocket.
That's right.
You know Martin Lewis, right? That money-saving guru.
Of course.
Well, he's been all over this council tax thing, and people are actually getting thousands back. Thousands?
It's true. Martin Lewis and his team at Moneysavingexpert have done some fantastic work highlighting the potential for savings and refunds within the council tax system.
Fucking right they have. But let's be real. This shit is more complicated than a Rubik's Cube on acid.
It can certainly seem that way.
Luckily for you lot, our expert's here to break it all down, make it so even your hamster could understand it.
Yeah.
I appreciate the vote of confidence. I'll do my best.
First things first. Are you stuck in the wrong council tax band? Imagine buying a car today, but you have to pay based on what it was worth in 1991.
It's a good analogy. In England and Scotland, the system relies on property valuations from 1991.
1991, that's like the stone age of the internet.
And Wales had a revaluation in 2003, so they're slightly ahead of the game. But it does mean that there are a lot of inaccuracies.
Inaccuracies, my arse.
Yeah.
That means we're getting ripped off. So how do we check if we're being screwed?
There are two key checks you need to do. The neighbor's check and the valuation check. It's really important that you do both.
2 checks. Sounds like a pain in the balls.
Trust me, it's worth it. The neighbor's check basically involves comparing your council tax band with other similar properties in your area. You can find this information on official websites like the VOA in England or the SAA in Scotland.
So basically, I stalk my neighbors and see if they're getting a better deal.
I like it. It's more about gathering information, really, to see if there are any discrepancies. And then the second check, the valuation check, that estimates what your property would have been worth in 1991 and compares that to your current band.
So if my house was worth like a fiver back in 91, I could be paying way less now.
Potentially, yes. Moneysavingexpert has a great tool that can help you do this.
Okay, so let's say I do these checks and it turns out I am in the wrong band. What next? Do I write a strongly worded letter to the council?
It is a bit more involved than that, I'm afraid. But if both of those checks suggest your band is too high, then yes, you can challenge it.
Challenge accepted. But how the hell do we do that?
There are 2 ways to challenge your council tax band, formally and informally. A formal challenge is more straightforward, but there are some specific criteria you need to meet. For example, you can only formally challenge if you've lived in the property for less than 6 months, or if there have been significant changes to your property or your neighborhood.
So if you've been living in the same shithole for years, you're out of luck.
Not necessarily. If you don't meet the criteria for a formal challenge, you can still submit an informal challenge. It's less official, but you need to provide evidence to back up your claim.
Evidence? What do we need to dig up my old school reports or something?
Not quite. But in England, you can actually request a document called Property Attribute Details from the Valuation Office Agency. This basically gives you all the details about your property, its size, its features, any unique characteristics.
So boring.
But you can then use this document to compare your property to similar properties in a lower band.
Oh, so it's like playing detective.
Well, you need to make sure you have strong evidence to support your case.
If my neighbors ask what I'm doing, I'll just tell them I'm writing a book about council tax. That'll shut them up.
If you think that'll work. But the key is to have strong evidence to support your challenge.
Right. So that's one way to stick it to the council. What else have you got?
Well, another way to potentially reduce your bill is to see if you qualify for any discounts.
Discounts. Tell me more. I like discounts.
There are actually quite a few discounts available depending on your circumstances. For instance, if you live alone, you could be eligible for a 25% discount.
So all those years of living like a lonely hermit were worth it after all.
There's also a full exemption for households where everyone is a full-time student. And if you have a live-in carer, you might be able to reduce your bill by 50%.
Hang on, students don't pay any council tax? What a scam.
It's true. And these discounts can make a big difference. Some councils might even backdate them so you could actually get a lump sum back. But of course, you need to meet the criteria for each discount and apply for them properly.
Before we get bogged down in all the boring details, let's hear about some real-life wins. Stories of people who actually got their money back from these tight-fisted bastards.
Absolutely. A woman named Michelle contacted Moneysavingexpert after realizing she was eligible for a carer's discount. She ended up getting over £2,000 back from her counsel.
$2,000. I could buy a lot of beer with that.
It just goes to show you these savings are not to be sniffed at.
Right, so we've got those discounts. What else?
Well, there's another important discount I wanted to mention, the Severe Mental Impairment Discount, SMI for short.
Severely mentally impaired. Bit harsh, isn't it?
I agree the terminology could use an update, but the discount itself is incredibly valuable for those who qualify.
Okay, so who can actually claim this SMI discount?
To be eligible, someone must be medically certified as having a severe impairment of intelligence and social functioning that is permanent. So this could be due to things like dementia, profound learning difficulties, brain injuries, or severe strokes.
So we're not talking about just having a bad day here. This is serious stuff.
Exactly. And as well as the medical certification, they also need to be receiving a qualifying benefit, something like attendance allowance or personal independence payment.
So you got to be pretty fucked up to get this discount, though.
Well, the idea is that it recognizes the additional challenges that those individuals face. The benefit requirement is there to ensure that it goes to those who need it most.
Right, makes sense. But what if you're struggling to pay your council tax, but you don't qualify for this SMI discount? Is there anything else out there?
Absolutely. There's something called council tax support, which is separate from these discounts. It can reduce your bill by up to 100%, depending on your income and where you live.
100%. So some people don't have to pay any council tax at all. What's the catch?
Well, it's not a catch exactly, but a lot of people don't realize that it exists or that they need to apply for it separately. It's not automatic.
So it's like a secret council tax loophole.
It's more like an underclaimed benefit, really. But it could potentially save you up to £1,500 a year, so it's definitely worth looking into.
All right, so we've got those discounts and this council tax support thing. Any other ways to squeeze some cash out of those council bastards?
Well, believe it or not, there's a massive pot of unclaimed council tax overpayments out there. We're talking 141 million.
141 million. Bloody hell, who's got all this cash then?
Well, according to our investigation, over 800,000 households across Britain have overpaid their council tax. And you're most likely to have overpaid if you moved out of a council area since 1993 and weren't paying by direct debit.
So if you moved house and paid your council tax in cash, you might be owed a refund.
That's right.
Fucking hell, those sneaky bastards.
The most common reasons for overpayments include closing your account before paying up to your move-out date, forgetting to cancel payments, or receiving a discount retrospectively.
So basically, it's a bureaucratic nightmare.
Pretty much. But it's worth checking if you might be owed a refund.
Right, so we've got those 3 ways to potentially lower our council tax bills. Got any bonus tips for us?
Sure do. Consider paying your council tax over 12 months instead of 10.
Spread the pain.
Exactly. It's your right in England and an option in many parts of Scotland and Wales.
Right. Now let's get serious for a second. I know some of you bleeding hearts out there might be thinking, if we all claim these discounts and refunds, won't that screw over the councils?
It's a fair point. Councils are under a lot of financial pressure.
So we're basically screwing over essential services just to save a few quid.
Well, it's not quite that simple. While it is important to consider the impact on councils, it's also important to remember that these discounts and refunds exist for a reason. They are there to ensure fairness and to support those who need it most.
Right, so don't be a greedy twat, but also don't be afraid to claim what you're owed.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
Right, okay. I think that's enough council tax talk for one day. Time for a recap. What have we learned today, expert?
Today, we've uncovered 3 ways to potentially lower your council tax bill and maybe even get some money back. First, check if you're in the right council tax band. You might be paying more than you need to.
Number 2.
See if you qualify for any discounts.
And finally,
look into those council tax overpayments. You might be owed a refund. For more detailed guidance on all of this, be sure to check out Moneysavingexpert's website. They have all the information you need.
Right. Do your homework, people. Don't expect us to do it all for you.
I think that's a good place to pause for now.
You heard the expert. We'll be back soon with part 2 of this council tax extravaganza. In the meantime, grab a drink, take a deep breath, and prepare for round 2. And remember, the council tax man might be a sneaky bastard, but we're even sneakier. We'll be back soon.
Welcome back, you money-hungry bastards. Ready for round 2 of our council tax beatdown.
Hell yeah. Bring it on.
All right, so last time we left off, we were talking about how to stick it to the council and get some of your hard-earned cash back.
Right, those sneaky gets.
We covered 3 main strategies: challenging your council tax band, claiming discounts, and reclaiming overpayments.
It's a fucking robbery, the whole system.
Let's delve a bit deeper into each one. Shall we start with council tax bands?
Yeah, let's talk about those.
So remember those 2 crucial checks I mentioned? The neighbor's check and the valuation check.
Right, the 1991 time warp.
Make sure you do both. Don't just rely on one or the other.
Why not?
Because you want to be absolutely certain that you're in the right band.
Right.
So you've done your checks, and it turns out you're in a higher band than you should be. What's next?
Time to kick some council arse.
Well, remember we talked about formally challenging your band or submitting an informal request for a review?
Formal, informal, what the fuck is the difference?
Think of it as different levels of seriousness. A formal challenge is more straightforward, but you need to meet certain conditions.
Conditions? Like what?
Like if you've only been living in the property for less than 6 months, or if there have been major changes to your property or the surrounding area.
So basically, if you haven't just moved in, you're screwed.
Not necessarily. If you don't meet the criteria for a formal challenge, you can still submit an informal challenge. It's less official, but you need to have good evidence to back up your claim.
Evidence again.
It's important.
Okay, so what kind of evidence are we talking about here?
Well, in England, remember that property attribute details document we mentioned?
The property porn.
That's a good way to put it. It basically lists all the details about your property, its size, features, all that good stuff. You can use this document to compare your property with similar ones that are in a lower band.
Oh, I see.
So you need to build a strong case.
All right, so I've got my evidence, my detective hat on, and I'm ready to rumble. What do I actually do? Do I march into the council office and demand a refund?
Not quite. You can submit your challenge online or by post. Make sure you describe your property, clearly list similar properties in a lower band, and include any other evidence that you've gathered.
Sounds easy enough.
But what if the council rejects my challenge?
Yeah, what then? Do I just accept defeat?
Not necessarily. If it's a formal challenge in England, you can appeal to the valuation tribunal.
Take those bastards to court.
Exactly. And in Scotland, you can appeal to the local taxation chamber.
All right, let's move on to those council tax discounts. Give me the good stuff.
Okay, so remember we talked about discounts for those who live alone, for full-time student households, and for those with live-in carers.
Yeah, those students living the dream paying no council tax.
It's true. Full-time student households are exempt from council tax, and those with live-in carers can get a 50% discount.
Right, and what about us solo dwellers?
You can get a 25% discount if you live alone.
25% just for being a miserable loner. Not bad.
And remember, some councils might even backdate it. So if you've been living alone for a while and you haven't claimed it, you could be due a refund.
Oh yeah, I like the sound of that.
Right. And now let's revisit another important discount, the Severe Mental Impairment Discount, SMI for short.
Yeah, that one sounds a bit grim.
The name, perhaps, but the discount itself can be incredibly valuable.
Okay, so who can claim it?
To be eligible, someone must be medically certified as having a severe impairment of intelligence and social functioning, and that impairment must be permanent.
So it's not just a temporary thing.
No, it could be due to a variety of conditions, things like dementia, profound learning difficulties, brain injuries, or severe strokes.
Serious stuff then.
And in addition to the medical certification, they also need to be receiving a qualifying benefit, such as attendance allowance or personal independence payment.
So you've got to be pretty badly off to qualify.
The benefit requirement is there to ensure that the discount goes to those who need it the most.
Okay, makes sense. But what if you're really struggling to pay your council tax, but you don't qualify for the SMI discount? What then?
Don't worry. There's something called council tax support, which is separate from these discounts and can reduce your bill by up to 100% depending on your income and where you live.
100%.
Seriously.
Seriously. Because some people don't pay any council tax at all.
That's right. And it's often overlooked. People just don't know about it or don't realize they have to apply for it
It's
separately.
like a secret weapon.
They can make a huge difference to people's lives.
Right, so we've covered council tax bans and discounts. What was that third strategy again?
Reclaiming council tax overpayments.
Oh yeah, that magic pot of gold.
Remember, over 800,000 households are estimated to have overpaid their council tax.
And who's most likely to have overpaid?
Those who moved out of a council area since 1993 and weren't paying by direct debit.
So basically, if you moved house and paid cash, you might be owed a refund.
It's worth checking.
What are the most common reasons for overpayments?
Closing your account too early, forgetting to cancel payments, or receiving a discount after you've already paid.
Typical counsel fuckery.
It's a bit of a mess, but there you go.
Okay, so we've covered our 3 main strategies. Anything else we need to know?
Oh, don't forget about the option to pay over 12 months instead of 10. Could save you a bit of hassle each month.
Right. Spread the pain. Makes sense.
Mm.
Now, before we wrap up, I know some of you might be thinking, hold on, if we all start claiming these discounts and refunds, won't that bankrupt the councils?
It's a good question. It is important to be mindful of the financial pressures local governments face.
So, are we being selfish by trying to save some money?
Not necessarily. These discounts and refunds exist for a reason, to make sure the system is fair and to support those who need help.
So it's all about striking a balance.
Exactly. Looking after yourself and not screwing over everyone else.
Right. A delicate ecosystem, this council tax bollocks.
You could say that.
Okay, folks, that's it for part 2 of our council tax beatdown.
Next time, we'll be checking out some real-life success stories to inspire you.
And we'll give you all the tools and resources you need to take on those council tax bastards. So stay tuned. Welcome back, you money-grabbing gits. Ready for the final round of our council tax beatdown.
Ready when you are.
Right. Today we're going to unleash the ultimate weapon in your fight against council tax.
Oh, and what's that?
Real-life examples of people who stuck it to the man and won.
Ah, yes. The success stories. Nothing like a bit of inspiration to get you going.
Fucking right. So, expert, hit me with some of those juicy wins. Give us the good stuff.
All right, well, remember, Fritzy boy, he followed Martin's advice, checked his neighbor's council tax bans, saw a difference, and challenged it. And he got over 10,500 pounds back.
10 grand. Bloody hell, that's enough to buy a new car.
It just goes to show you, these savings can be significant.
Right. It's your money. You deserve to have it back. And it's not just about challenging those bans, is it? What about those discounts? Remember Michelle?
Ah, yes, Michelle.
She claimed a carer's discount and got over 2 grand back.
Another great example of how those discounts can really add up.
It's like finding free money. And what about those who've claimed council tax support? Some of them aren't even paying any council tax at all.
That's right. Council tax support can be a lifeline for those who are struggling.
Right. Okay, so we've heard the stories. We know it's possible to get that cash back. But where do we start? Where can our listeners go to join this council tax crusade?
Well, the best place to start is Money Saving Expert's website. They've got a wealth of information on there, guides, tools, template letters, everything you need to navigate this whole council tax mess.
Money Saving Expert,
Yeah.
Those guys are like the Robin Hood of personal finance.
They explain everything really clearly, so even if you're not a financial whiz, you'll be able to understand it.
So they've done all the hard work for us, basically.
Well, they've certainly made it as easy as possible.
Right, so all we have to do is go to their website, follow the instructions, and watch the money roll in.
Pretty much.
It's a foolproof plan.
Hmm.
Okay, before we wrap up this episode, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? What do they need to remember when they're taking on those council tax bastards?
Do your research, don't give up easily, and remember you're not being greedy by claiming what you're entitled to.
Yeah, it's your money. Don't let those council jobs worths intimidate you. You've got the power to beat them at their own game. Right, expert?
Absolutely.
Right. That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you've enjoyed it and that you've learned a thing or two about how to stick it to the council.
We've covered a lot of ground, but remember there's plenty more information available on the Money Saving Expert website.
Yeah, go check it out. And in the meantime, stay informed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay pissed off at those council tax bills. We'll see you next time.